everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. I'm your host, Juliana. Hey, everyone. Before we dive in, a quick shout out to the amazing brands that I use and love. And the best part is when you shop with them, you are directly supporting this podcast so I can keep going. Here's the lineup. Cyc Plus, smart pumps for the perfect tire pressure. Down the road, cycling apparel that looks good and performs. New Zest, clean, plant-based protein and nutrition. Oleos, wellness shots with adaptogens and neurotropics for energy, focus, and recovery. Code Age, high-quality supplements like multivitamins, creatine, and collagen. Loop earplugs for travel, sleep, recovery, and noise control. Clearly not coffee. A smooth, caffeine-free energy alternative. Heal, quick, plant-based meals for busy or bikepacking days. Shocks, open-ear headphones that keep you safe while training. Frey skincare design for active people and sweaty rides. All the links, discounts, and codes are in the episode description, so check them out, grab some great deals, and know you're helping keep Zone to Speak rolling. Now, let's get into the episode. Today on Zone to Speak, I'm delighted to welcome back Pete Alfano, the founder of Alfano Frameworks. Pete isn't just your typical frame builder. With a background in archaeology and a decade spent teaching PhD students in research methods, he brings a rare depth of curiosity and craftsmanship to bike building. A fully qualified frame builder and mechanic, Pete turned his passion into a full-time workshop in 2025 after years of balancing part-time builds with repairs and servicing. His bespoke frames, steel frames, like the Aventura, built for gravel adventures with mounts for fenders, dynamo routing, and hiking pole holders, are designed to stretch the utility of your bike and empower real-world exploration. In today's episode, we are going to dig into his design philosophy, get practical tips for bikepacking beginners, and explore the balance between tools versus speed when the roadside repairs meet the trail. Let's start crafting the conversation. Pete, welcome to Zone 2.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be back.
So happy you're back. It was so great to meet you at Via Raced. I learned so much about you. I don't want to say just a mechanic because being a mechanic, it's a very important job, very important to our community of cycling, but you're also a frame builder.
I have quite a non-typical, atypical background to come at kind of bike mechanicking and building frames. So yeah, like you said in the intro, I trained as an archaeologist and then I worked in universities for over a decade teaching research methods and stuff to PhD students. And I've always been, very creative, and the frame building is really and the mechanicking as well, as an outlet to problem solving and getting to be creative in that problem solving.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a combination you don't see often, archaeologist, athlete / mechanic, and then doing your own frames. So you went from archaeologist and academics to artisan bike builder. How was that journey, especially your research-based mindset? Like, how did that shape the approach that you brought into designing and handcrafting steel frames?
Yeah. I think for me, the thing I learned from research that I think has carried over has been the interest in answering the question that the rider is posing. What do you want, or the question I ask, I guess, is what do you want to do with the bike? And then the challenge and the thing that they're posing is I want to do X, Y, and Z with the bike. I want to race Via. I want to race Badlands. I want to commute every day and have ride every day, take my stuff while I commute to work, be able to be kind of dry when I get there. I want to race time trials, whatever it is. Those kinds of, what I really enjoy is getting to work my creativity around the parameters of the rider, of the customer. And so figuring out how to best solve as many of their of the questions that they've posed as I can, really. I think there's always a compromise to be had when you're designing stuff. And so you always have this, have an idealized vision. And often the the rider will come with an idealized vision of a bike or a way of riding or a type of handling. And then there's a discussion there where you're talking about kind of what materials can do, what type of handling actually you need to think about, if you're a racer racing crit races and short term stuff and you want to move on to longer things, you don't want that super sharp, really quick handling on your 4,000 kilometer endurance bike because after 23 hours awake, the last thing you want is the bike to kind of jump up and bite you.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's a cross between design and functionality. And of course, I'm speaking for myself, like I want a certain design, but I'm clueless. So maybe you would need to educate your customer, the rider, on like, okay, this design for what you want might not work everything, and you might need to compromise on a few things. That's what you're
Yeah,
trying to say.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good frame builder is as much about providing, a high quality product at the end of it as it is about being able to have a conversation with your customer and to manage those expectations and to be able to say to people, you can have these things and we need to think about how we can get as close to as possible to achieving these other things. You you need to be, honest and kind of realistic with the customer about what is and isn't possible, certainly within budgets and things like that as well. Which always get onto the sticky issue of, when people sometimes say, I want to build a bike for my retirement present. I've had this conversation a few times. How much will it cost? And you're like, well, how much do you want to spend? Because in bike parts, wheels, tires, all sorts of stuff, you can spend almost
Yeah,
as much as you want. You
that's
pick a
true.
number, you can find a thing that costs that much.
Yeah.
So it's about I think for me, trying to give the rider value for money as well as, the best bang for their buck and the most enjoyable riding experience.
Yeah. And you are also a bike fitter, something else I didn't mention. And I think also something that people need to keep in mind is that when you buy a bike and you get a bike fit, you most likely will change a few parts. So when you're getting a custom bike, it might be a bigger investment, maybe, never know. Because like you said, the sky's the limit. You can go as far or as low as you want. But if you're doing custom, it's going to be customized already for you. So you are not going to need those tweaks.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for me, one of the kind of the key discussion is at the beginning around what kind of bikes have you ridden in the past or models of those brands? What kind of riding have you done in the past? What kind of riding are you planning to do? And then looking at the rider on the bike. So how do you sit on the bike? What's your fit like? Are there any key parts that you really want to include? Some people are really have a vision in their head or have to have a 100 millimeter stem because I just like the way that looks. So that's the thing I have to have, or I want a laid back seat post. And I've designed stuff around, specific stems or seat posts or specific types of bars. And the thing is, you get them in the workshop, you sit on the jig, and we can have those bars and kind of hoods set up, and you can get a feel for what the position on the bike will be like before you design it. And that's I think the joy for me is giving them that kind of window into what it's going to be like, and then delivering the thing that should hopefully, will definitely meet all of their expectations.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about the Aventura blueprint. I know that frame, per what I was looking online, looks very
Mm.
impressive. I don't know if it was also the archaeologist in you, explorer in you, because it's really interesting that you can have like the hiking poles attachment and all that. So it's like full on adventure mode.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through the thinking behind those design choices?
Yeah, so that bike was really, I wanted to be able to go off grid and to adventure without having to be reliant on finding a power bank or finding a plug to charge the batteries for my derailleur or the dynamo with the routing gives you enough power to be able to charge a battery pack that could then charge runs the lights in the daytime, can then be used to charge your phone and your GPS. in the evening. And having that was one of the key things I wanted to be able to do. And also to be able to carry as few spares as possible. So I was completely self-reliant when I was out and about on it. So mechanical gears and cable actuated disc brakes means that, if anything breaks, one or two cables to replace is even for, not a bike mechanic, replacing a cable is a relatively easy thing to learn how to do. And then, yeah, the pole attachment came about because I'm very tall, 196 centimeters. And so I, I have a very big frame. So I had this huge kind of space within the frame that I wanted to make a bit more practical. And so I had a really good frame bag. And then I was trying to figure out how to divide up the space and use the frame bag and store the tent and the poles and things for the tent. And also thinking about hiker bike. If you go somewhere and you've got to hoik the bike up onto your shoulders or carry it up or down a descent or an ascent, you've got those options there to be able to use the poles for stability and balance as well. So it was really I guess as close to my disappear off around the world bike as possible, really.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like I never seen something like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
it gets a lot of attention. It's
Let's talk about beginner fixes and pre-ride prep. So for someone new to bikepacking, what are the essential fixes or skills you think everyone should practice before heading out on their first trip? Are there simple repairs riders can or should be confident doing themselves?
I think that the key one is punctures.
Yes.
I know loads of people who very early, and the same for me, very early on in my cycling career, had rides ruined by punctures that I couldn't fix because I couldn't get the tire off, or I pinched an inner tube because I'd not practiced changing those tires on those wheels. And it's a thing that's easy to replicate. It's quite a tiresome thing. Let your tires down, take the tires off the wheel, put tires back on the wheel, inflate the inner tube. But it's a thing that is worth doing and worth practicing, because doing it in the rain at the side of the road is not the first time you want to be doing to be doing those
Nope.
things.
Nope.
Decent quality set of tire levers goes a long way. The Park Tool tire levers, and also the Decathlon tire levers as well, actually, are probably my two favorites. I like the Decathlon ones because they're yellow and they're easy to find in your bag of tools. But they are, a good set of tire levers makes a big difference, to be able to get the tire on and off. And then knowing how your gears work. So we did a little kind of webinar for VIA for the newer riders and for people who had any questions about mechanics and things to think about before they came to race VIA. And I think that being familiar with how your bike works is a key kind of thing. Know what happens if I undo this bolt? What happens if I tighten up this bolt? What if my seat post is slipping? What do I need to do? We need to, this is the bolt you need to tighten to do that. If my saddle's moved, which bolt is it? Do I have the right Allen key to be able to tighten that? And similarly with, like, if your bars are slipping or your stem gets knocked out of alignment with your front wheel, being able to loosen and retighten those bolts. Not necessarily, you don't have to tighten them to the exact torque. You just have to be able to tighten them enough that they're not moving. Take it to a bike mechanic and they can check the torque on those things. But being able to do those things is a key kind of a key component to be able to relax during your ride. I think if you're fairly confident knowing how your bike works, then you don't necessarily have to repair those things, but you makes the conversation with the bike mechanic when you get to the bike shop a lot easier and a lot less stressful as well. And also, you can phone a friend and say, look, I know you know how to fix this thing. My brakes have, what can I do to get me to the next town safely? Or what should I do? My derailleur stopped working. Like, do you know how I get it into a gear that is rideable?
Yeah, good points. And on the fixing a puncture, of course, there are differences between tubeless and tube. What are your thoughts there?
I run tubeless on almost everything at the moment, apart from my time trial bike and my road bike. All my other bikes run tubeless.
All my
Anything
other
over,
bikes.
yeah, or I
Sorry,
should
couldn't
say,
resist.
all my other sets of wheels. because they're not all attached to bikes at the moment. I have
Okay.
a collection of bikes that are rideable. I could get out and ride immediately, and there's a collection of other bikes that are uh, require bits from some of the other bikes to make a whole bike. But yeah, there's a collection of wheels around that some have bikes, some don't. They're all, I think, everything now over a 32 millimeter width tire is tube. I'm running tubeless. It sets up really easily. Most of the tubeless systems now are extremely good. Certainly, if you're running a bigger volume, like a gravel tire in a 40 or a 50 mil tire or a mountain bike tire, I'd have no hesitation running them. In fact, I would be averse to running them with an inner tube unless it was in an emergency and I couldn't get the tubeless to seal. I should say, yeah, that if you are running tubeless, do take an inner tube with you or two, because in the unlikely event that you get a puncture that you can't, that it doesn't seal, being able to put the inner tube in is is the fail safe to be able to get you home.
Yeah. I have everything tubeless and I feel much more comfortable because usually for me it's much easier to get a plug in and keep
Mm,
going than having to take the levers out, take the tire out to find if there's a hole and then doing the whole procedure. For me, it's much tougher. It's hard. I don't have much upper body strength. And on the tubeless, it's really less resort to use a tube.
yeah, I think exactly that's how I would approach it. I think the thing is the plugs are always quite nerve-wracking, I think, aren't they? Because you're not going to deliberately puncture your tire to use a plug. So normally the first time you have to use your tubeless plug is when you're by the side of the road with a puncture that won't seal. So there's this nerve-wracking moment of reading the instructions on the side of the tubeless, the plug packet, going like, okay, what do I do with this? And once you've done it once, it's fine. But
Yeah.
the first time is always very nerve-wracking because yeah, you're not going to deliberately put a big hole in your nice new tire just to make sure that you know how to seal seal a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if people, I mean, not everybody has it, but if there is an old tire that you can play with it, not that you want to do
Mm,
that, but it does help to get the nerve, out of your system. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's actually not that bad. And also, when I did that, I realized also that I liked a certain tool more than another
hmm.
to do the plugging.
Yep. Yeah, everyone has, and that's the other thing is you'll have a favorite once you've done it once or twice and tried a couple of different ones. You'll have a favorite brand in the same way that you can end up with a favorite. Everyone has a favorite brand of pump or tire levers in a tube.
Yeah.
There's always you'll have your go-to kit that you ideally have and make sure that you carry with you.
Yeah. How about tools versus the speed? Like if you're out on a remote trail, how do you decide what to fix right there versus what to pack up and take to a shop later? If you can, obviously, because sometimes I guess you just need to call a taxi, but
Yeah,
or a
sometimes
friend.
there's there's a long walk involved. I think that some it partly depends on what your ambitions for the ride are. I think, like with the Aventura, I was fairly the toolkit with that was fairly extensive because I wanted to be able to repair stuff myself. One of the reasons I picked mechanical disc brakes was that they run on traditional brake cables, so carrying two spare brake cables is a very small pack versus carrying a whole bleed kit to bleed a hydraulic brake system and some spare hose in the right length and some olives and barbs and all of the other stuff.
You might as well take the whole shop with you. Get like a cargo bike then.
Exactly, and that is the I think that's the kind of the challenge is that yeah you can end up being for me like I could fix everything potentially at the side of the road, but I'm not going to carry an entire workshop's worth of tools with me. So I normally go with tubeless repair kit, one inner tube, tire levers, pump, set of Allen keys, and some chain lube of whatever chain lube I'm using, and that's
Check,
kind of
check,
it.
check. I have all that on my kit. Okay.
Good.
I'm
That's
good
what
to
I like to
go.
hear.
Now, if
Yeah,
I can do it, it's another question, but
yeah. But I think that kind of covers you for pretty much everything. I mean, if you want to carry a spare quick link, you can, but you'll need a chain breaker of some description, which quite a lot of tools do come with now.
Yeah.
Um, but chains are pretty reliable. Like you're going some to break a chain. It's pretty unlikely to break a chain. I have done it. It is possible, but I think I've only broken one in the last sort of 10 years of fairly heavy cycling. And that was, I suspect, as much due to a kind of interaction with a rock as it was due to the chain breaking itself.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's pretty unlikely, but it is worth. I would certainly say, like, if you're doing veer or in a specific event, carry a quick link with you because it's useful to get you out of trouble.
Okay. Sounds simple enough. A- Anything else you would recommend that it's practical, efficient roadside repair, or that those are the basics? Anything else you really just have to?
Yeah, I think if you're running mechanical gears, having an idea of how your derailleur works, how to get it to stay in a gear if it's slipping, is useful. And I think if you're running electronic gears, as you know, I would say probably the majority of people that like a big event are nowadays, then play with the app before you go. Know how the app works and how to connect
Yeah.
your bike to the app and how to do a reset to rejoin the shifters to the derailleur if you're running SRAM or Shimano. How
Yeah.
to do all the linking up of stuff. Just it's very unlikely, but the last thing you want is to be stuck because you've had like the shifters, the derailleurs have crashed, or there's been some hardware failure. You have to do a hard reset, and you don't know how. And the app is pretty good about talking you through stuff most of the time. But have a play with it before you go would always be my advice.
Yeah. Makes sense. And how about at home? Like, are there basic tools and repairs that you think people could do at home?
I think a
Like
chain checker
disc
is
pads,
a
brake
disc
pads,
pad,
brake pads.
brake pads, and changing your chain. I think is an entirely reasonable and pretty straightforward thing. If you buy a chain checker, you can measure the kind of the wear on your chain. And then from there, if you know what number of gears and which brand of derailleur group set you're running, you can buy a replacement chain. And the easiest way to make sure your chain is the right length is if once you take the chain off your bike, line it up on the floor next to the new one, make sure it's got the same number of links, and
Okay.
then you just take off the end bit.
Makes
But
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it's lots of bike shops and mechanics will happily talk you through stuff if you're kind of the curious kind of side of things and you want to learn how to do more stuff. Most bike mechanics are overly keen to share their knowledge and will tell you how to do stuff, maybe even if you don't want to know. But other than that, yeah, I'd say like know how your gears work and know how to change your disc pads. So what tool do you need to take the pin out? It varies. Some are an Allen key, some are a flat-headed screwdriver. And how do you take the pads out and put them back in? And remembering not to put cleaner or lubricant on your disc brakes.
Yes. Yes.
It might be making a noise, but please, please, please don't put WD-40 on it. That's something I have
Yeah.
seen people do.
Really? Well, yeah, because people want to get rid of the noise and then, yeah,
It
okay.
squeaks,
Kind
so
of
I
makes
sprayed it
sense,
in.
but no. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a logic in there, but it's just not quite. Yeah. There's a second step to the process where you're like, did you think about what the WD-40 does? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you've got a little bit of emery paper, that will get rid of your disc brake squeak most of the time. If you
Okay.
take the pads out and rub it on emery paper, just takes the top layer off the pads, where the contamination usually is, and then you can put them back in and touch wood. Most of the time they work kind of quiet. They'll be quieter.
Sounds good. Any other tricks of the trade to share?
Ooh, ooh. No. Always be nice to your bike mechanic. Always be nice to your bike shop. Always be nice to your bike mechanic. You can find, I think, from having conversations with lots of riders at Veer and other places, I think finding a bike shop that you can trust and that you feel treats your bike well is really important. And finding a bike mechanic who you feel does the same is key. I think it's very much like the car, when you rock up and you get a good feeling about your car mechanic, it's probably in good hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once a year services to everybody. Service your bike once a year. Take it to the bike shop and pay them to do it. And it will cost you maybe a couple of £100, but they'll strip it completely and rebuild it. They'll bleed your brakes, they'll check all your bearings. And, if you're riding a lot, if you're doing 500 kilometers a week, that's, 5,200 kilometers a year. Lots of people be riding more than 100 kilometers a week.
Yeah.
And so it soon rockets up once you're out on the bike regularly. So yeah, the bikes deserve
Yeah.
love.
It does. And it's a good point that you brought up because a lot of people, myself included, sometimes, I don't remember or I don't know. Like sometimes if I go to a, gravel race and it's really rough and muddy and wet, like should I take it for service or is just a wash okay?
Yeah.
If I just had service because I have a big race, but then that big race kind of gets everything dirty, like do I take to service again? I mean, it's a lot of money. What do we do?
Yeah. I think with those ones, I'd say if you've had it fully serviced before the race, clean it, lubricate your chain, check your brake pads for wear. You're probably fine unless you notice a strange noise or something is behaving in a way you don't want it to. You're probably you're probably okay. Most bike shops will offer a kind of graduated servicing, so they do a kind of basic check over, and then there'll be normally like a silver and a gold service or similarly named at different price points. So they should, if you've got a specific problem post race, I would and take it to the bike shop and say, front brake is doing this weird thing, and they'll have seen it before, so I'd be very surprised if they charged you for a full service. They're probably just going to say to you, look, we'll have a look and we'll do what needs doing.
That's good to know. But if you're not listening to any weird noises, nothing's cracking, you can just clean up yourself and
Yeah,
you're good to go.
yeah. Don't pressure wash your bike.
Never. Yeah. I lost
Uh,
a power meter
yeah,
over that.
yeah. Don't pressure wash the bike. It's not just the seals on the bearings and the electronics. Not designed for that. So yeah, clean it. Soap and water or bike cleaner and water, and then sponge and oil or lubricate the chain depending on what your chosen type of lubricant is, wax or wet lube, and yeah, try and keep your disc rotors clean. Buying a can of disc brake cleaner, which you spray on the rotors, is a worthwhile purchase if you're going to clean the bike. 'Cause you can spray that on and wipe it off with a clean cloth and wipe off the excess, and that should prevent any contamination.
Now, for people that can't wash their bikes at home and do depend on those gas stations for
Mm.
the pressure washer, what do they do? Can you just spray like the fork in the back of the frame or?
Yeah, I would spray it from distance. So don't focus the jet on any of the bearings, so the bottom bracket, the wheel hubs. If you want to spray the tires and kind of the top half of the frame, you kind of be all right. But just avoid places where, like the headset, the wheel bearings, the bottom bracket, the rear derailleur and/or front derailleur, if you've got it. Avoid those things, and you should be able to get the rest of the dirt kind of off. But yeah, don't sort of don't chase the dirt away like you would if you were cleaning the car or the patio.
Very good
Otherwise,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been
Otherwise, yeah.
victim of the power wash.
Yeah, it just pushes all of the grease and lubricant out of the bearings, or will get between the waterproof seals and get into the electronics. And so what you're doing is you're just pushing all of the dirt and all of the good sort of lubricant out of the bearings, and they'll just rust. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that explains a lot. Okay.
You're too far away for me to see your bike, so it's fine. I'll never know.
Never know. Yeah. You mentioned that where you live, it's like a gentle terrain and there
Mhm.
are hidden breakaways, quiet roads to be discovered. What are some of your favorite local routes or riding experience that you enjoy and that maybe have inspired the designs on Alfano frames?
So there's a huge time trial scene in the UK. That's our kind of bread and butter of racing, I guess, for most keen road cyclists is time trials. Closed road racing is few and far between here. So turning up on a Sunday morning or in the evening, now most clubs will run a local kind of Thursday night or Wednesday night, a 10-mile time trial, and you just rock up and race, turn up, flog yourself 10 miles and get back off the bike again, and you get a time. And you turn up and race on a Sunday, and they, they charge you £5. You get a race number, you give your race number back at the end, and you get a cup of tea and a bit of cake, and off you go.
Nice.
It's great. It's a really welcoming, and from the outside, it can seem quite intimidating, but it's always run by volunteers. It tends to be the partners of the people who are members of the club,
Okay.
or members of the club themselves, and they're all just really enthused to get people riding and racing time trials. And so, yeah, the time trials, a couple of time trial routes local to me that inspired the kind of my time trial bike that's on the website, one with the Dazzle camouflage. And then, yeah, around here is very much shorter sections of kind of bridle way or gravel interspersed with kind of country lanes. So you have to do lots of hunting for longer sections of gravel. Certainly if you want to be off the beaten path a bit. And as such, yeah, my bikes, I think I like an element of adaptability to them. I like to be able, I want it to be fun when you're riding on the road, because you kind of have to, certainly in the Midlands, for a proportion of your ride, and then still be capable when you get onto the rougher stuff, when you go onto the gravel, to be able to sort of push the limits of the bike and push the limits of yourself as much as you want. And you don't have to travel too far to find good going. Peak District from Leicester is only an hour and a half in the car,
Nice.
hour and a half on the train up to Derby. You can be out in the peaks. I was up in Northumbria racing last weekend, the Land Between, and phenomenal. An amazing race. Rich Rothwell, the organizer, did an incredible job. The race is brilliant, and the scenery and the riding is absolutely incredible. And I took the Aventura.
Cool.
It behaved really well. I squeezed a 2.4-inch tire into the front. No, 57 mil Rene Hurst. So yeah, 2.2,
Wow.
and then 47 mil on the back.
For back.
And that was not very much clearance on the rear, but the fork coped okay. But yeah,
Nice.
that was cool. And yeah, I think a lot of the time the bike you've got is fine. You just have to practice,
Mhm.
practice descending or practice climbing. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned, can you share why would you go bigger tire on the front and smaller on the back?
Grip. I was going to match them, but I couldn't fit the matching tire in the rear.
Yeah.
These tires were a gift from a friend, so I was keen to use both. And yeah, I fitted the one on the rear, but there'd have been less frame left than I'd have liked by the end of the ride. Yeah, you can go. People have done to go smaller on the rear, big on the front. Or knobblier tends to be more grippy on the front. Tends to be the way people will go for some gravel stuff, because you want
Okay.
that grip turning into the corners and things. And when you're descending, you're getting that grip. Whereas if the back slides, you can control that. It's very easy to kind of lock the back wheel on a loose descent. But you
Yeah.
don't want to lock the front wheel, because the front wheel is
Yeah.
steering you. So yeah, a grippier tire on the front. And with this, it was also an added bonus of having a little bit of extra cushioning. So I was running a rigid fork. There were other people there on suspension forks and suspension stems, and I was running a fully rigid kind of front end. And so having the bigger tire at the lower pressure provides that little bit of kind of suspension cushioning at the front as well.
Cool. And now that you're full time at the shop, what's next for you? Are there any upcoming builds that are pushing boundaries?
Wow.
What are you up to?
What am I up to at the moment? Just working on, there's a couple of bikes in the works at the minute. So talking with a couple of people about some bike designs. Chap who is just approaching retirement, that's going to be quite a fun project, hopefully. Looking at building a kind of as many components sourced from around the UK as possible. So he wants to kind of Reynolds steel, so stainless Reynolds steel, and then find local manufacturers who make wheel hubs and headsets and bottom brackets and things, so we can get everything to be as UK based as possible. And he wants to run a Campagnolo group set, but everything else will be be made in the UK. So he's got
Cool.
a collection of bikes and has runs Campag on 2 or 3 of them. Big Campag fan, and so that should
That's a
be a
fun
fun.
project. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice because Reynolds is an hour from here, from where I'm
Okay.
based, over in Birmingham. So it's an hour on the train to Birmingham. And so in theory, I can go, I could go and pick up the tubing, which I think is really nice. Go to the factory
Yeah.
and collect the tubing. And then there are some other builders I'm friends with and kind of people who make components and things. So hubs and bearings and things that we can go in there, go and collect all those things from as well. So it should be a fun project. And then I'm working on a project looking at trying to build a travel bike, something that folds in a manner, not dissimilar to a very famous brand beginning with B, who we won't name. But so, person in question was using one of those small wheeled folding bike and wants a big wheeled folding bike or a big wheeled bike that breaks down easily to allow you to take it on the train within the kind of size restrictions and
Cool.
requirements of the various train companies. Because I know in Spain it can be a problem. Certainly in the UK, it's a huge problem if you rock up without a bike reservation. You can be
Yeah.
waiting for ages to get on a train.
Wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then
Here you need a bike reservation on the fast train, but the regional train, you don't even need to pack your bike.
no, so here most trains you don't need a reservation for all of them, but if you don't have a reservation and there's already like 2 bikes on the train, they won't let you. Most
Wow.
trains won't take more than 2 bikes, which is
That's insane.
not really the ideal, yeah. But if you can pack it down into like a bag or you can fold it up, then in theory it goes on the train. It doesn't require a bike space, so you're much easier to transport around that way. And then third and final one is some 32-inch wheel nonsense that I'm working on. A 32-inch wheeled hardtail mountain bike that
Wow.
is a longer term project for Bespoke next year for the handmade bike show that's in Manchester early next year. So that's
Cool. So that's a new concept.
yeah. So 32-inch wheels are just becoming a bit of a thing now. And Maxis and a couple of I think Maxis have released some tires, which I've got a pair of, and a couple of other brands I think are rumours to be following fairly close behind. And so, as a taller rider, a 32-inch wheel bike is very appealing because I can have a smaller frame. So instead of having a giant head tube, I can run a kind of head tube that looks relatively normal. And also 32-inch wheels, good for rolling over stuff, lumps and bumps and things. So a hardtail 32-inch bike should allow me to do some very silly gravel and off-road racing.
Cool. Well, you have to come back and tell us how that bike show went. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of Don't You Speak Again. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you soon.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's a delight as always. Yeah, and you know where I am if you need me.
Thank you. And that's all for today's episode. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends.